Well, hello, and we're just so excited today for another installment of Kidney Talks with the Ron and Joy Paul Kidney Center at George Washington University. I'm one of your co-hosts, the Reverend Dr. Kendrick Curry from the Pennsylvania Avenue Baptist Church in Washington, D.C., and we're also with the Minority Organ Tissue Transplant Education Program known as MOTEP. And so today we have our dynamic co-host, Dr. Clive Callender and Dr. Joseph Keith Melancon, and we're going to talk about a legacy of love. This legacy of love deals with the family of Mr. Anthony Brown, and we have members of his family that thought it not robbery so that they would be able to keep his legacy alive. And so we're excited and delighted today that each and every one of you are going to hear about the significance of transplantation and keeping your family members' legacy alive. Thank you to the Washington Regional Transplant Center for helping us out with this particular family and finding them and offering on blackdoctors.org, which is an amazing and wonderful platform for us to have this show today. So now, my other co-hosts, I welcome you.
Thank you.
Today we have not only Dr. Clive Callender and Dr. Joseph Keith Melancon, but we have Miss Cheryl Alston, I believe Miss Pam Howard, Katrina Brest, and we may have a few other of the family members that's with us. So let me first go to Dr. Melancon, Dr. Callender. Set us up for these wonderful guests that we are having today.
Well, once again, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm always honored to be on the show, but it's a particular honor to be here today because I often talk about the gift of transplantation, be it deceased donor or living donor. You really get to see the best side of mankind when people go above and beyond and decide to give the gift of life. With deceased donation, people are giving the gift of life at their lowest point. They've lost a loved one. And in that grief, in that extreme grief, they're looking beyond themselves and thinking of others. So it's an honor to be here. Dr. Callender and I have spent our careers working with recipients, but the recipient operation would never happen if not for donors. So it's an extreme honor to be here. I'm looking forward to the discussion, and thank you for having me once again, Dr. Curry.
Dr. Callender, we invite you to come on. I would ask that our other guests, if you would, please just mute yourselves when you're not speaking. We're getting a little bit of feedback. Dr. Callender?
Yes, it's such a treat, as Dr. Melancon has stated. When you think about the fact that 17 people die every day because of the shortage of donors, you realize what a wonderful gift. There's more than 100,000 people waiting for organs, and only 40,000 people get transplanted a year. So that's 60,000 people who don't get transplanted. And of those, about 17 people will die every single day because of the shortage of donors. So the people that make it all happen, as Dr. Melancon has said, is the deceased donor families who, in the midst of death of their loved ones, have the wisdom and the compassion, caring and kindness to leave that legacy of love that you mentioned to go on as long as the other person lives. So I'm so thrilled and grateful to have the opportunity to hear from the side that often we don't hear from, the side of the family that has lost their loved one, but in spite of that loss, have been willing to let the loved one live in others. And so I've learned through my decades of experience that the most important voices are the voices of those people who either donated or left their family's organs and tissues behind. So please listen to them as they speak, because they speak words that no one else can tell.
So I invite the members of the family of Anthony Howard. First of all, just greetings, and we are so glad that you've taken this bold step to be with us. I would encourage you to whoever wants to start to tell us a little bit about Anthony Brown and his life, and then tell us about this legacy of love and of transplant giving. Please come off of mute. Would Cheryl or Catherine feel free to come off? Pam, we can't hear you.
Pamela is the mother. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Pam, you got it, Pam? I'm Anthony's aunt. I'm Pam's sister. And as you all know, Anthony was are you on, Pam? Anthony was ill with had gone into cardiac arrest, lost oxygen to his brain. And so he was on life support for 10 days. And at the point where they realized that he was brain dead, and we had just gotten word that he was, and of course Pam was totally ecstatic. She was totally, just going through. And when I saw the donate to life people come, I was like, no, we're not doing that, because I just didn't want her to have to deal with that at that moment. And I was very overprotected of her through those 2 weeks and her having to deal with this sickness of her son. And because in our household, I remember my dad always saying, something happens to me, make sure that I want to keep my organs. And it's like, why do you want to keep them? We didn't know, it was learned behavior. So it was like, we did not know that it was the importance of organ donor. And after Pam looked up, she was like, what did they want? And she realized that Anthony was a giver. And so she wanted to give Anthony, he hadn't signed up as an organ donor. So she wanted to give his organs because he was such a giver. And I never really realized the importance of it, especially amongst the Black community, because of course my family is gone through having diabetes and being on dialysis. And as you all know, there are like these dialysis machine DeVitas on every corner in our neighborhoods because we don't give our organs. And so I never really understood the importance of giving our organs until Pam decided to give Anthony's organs, and we started working with Washington Regional Transplant as volunteers and ambassadors.
Yeah, Pam, are you on now? I wanted to hear you since you're the mother of Anthony Howard. And excuse me if I said Brown.
Can't hear you. Turn your speaker up, Pam.
Looks like she's frozen now. All right. We also have Miss Katrina Best
Catherine.
that is with us, and we
Hi,
invite you
Catherine.
to share as well.
Yes, my name is Catherine. Best.
Catherine.
Um, I am Anthony's cousin. He was 5 months older than me, but we really grew up very much like brother and sister. All of our family is from New York, and some of us moved to Virginia and Maryland as we got older, and we moved around the same time. So we connected, and um, up until his passing, um, I had just had my birthday maybe 3 weeks previously, and Anthony came to dinner with us and um, was very much just being himself, filled with love and celebrating life. So I'm glad that was the last time I got to him. And then 3 weeks later, he passed away.
All right. Hey, Pam, do we have you yet? Because we definitely like to hear from the mother. All right. Well, perhaps we can go ahead and jump right in. Dr. Callender, Dr. Melancon, we're already getting some amazing questions from our audience. We have one that really says from Mr. Johnson. He says, my son needs a kidney himself, and he's 29 years old, was a good student in school. He's a good kid, but I can't find a kidney donor for myself, so I'm not compatible. So how do we find, and I'm too old, and how do I find a kidney for myself? But you also, he has a son. So when you look at the situations like this legacy of love really points to something that's very significant. What would you have to comment and say about being able to find a kidney and the significance of what the Howard family has done?
What,
As, oh, I was going to say, has his family been tested to be able to give him a kidney other than himself? Because I think that that's where it would start, with trying to work with your family to see if they are compatible. I'm one lady that goes to my church. She did an actual appeal at my church once. To anyone. And I try, yeah, right. I know you, Pastor Carey. I belong to the New Macedonia Baptist Church right down the street from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But this young lady, she did an appeal to the church. And I actually tried to give JR one of my kidneys. And I did the whole application process because I was very close to her. And I matched. I was the only person she knew that matched, but it was a situation where, because of my history and the diabetes and all that stuff, they didn't take me as a candidate to be a transplant. So he could do it as a living transplant by doing an appeal in some of the organizations that he might be a part of.
Yes, Ms. Alston is absolutely correct. You know, the gentleman's question ties in perfectly to what we're talking about here with deceased donation, because the problem is, like Dr. Callender already alluded to, there are so many people that need transplants, and we only have a very limited supply, right? There are over 100,000 people that need kidney transplants, and we do around 20,000 or so per year. So that gap leads to a lot of people dying who need a kidney transplant. Now, Dr. Callender has spent his entire life concentrating on educating the community so that people understand the need, both from donating after death and donating while still alive. Now, one of the things that's unique about our culture and our ethnic group, African Americans, is that we have the most kidney disease of any ethnic group in this country, right? So we only make up about 12% of the population, but we make up about 36% of the people that are on dialysis. So Ms. Alston is correct when she says on every corner, you look in our neighborhoods, on every corner there is a dialysis center, because there's so much kidney disease in the African American community. Back when I was training in the 1990s and early 2000s, African Americans did not donate their kidneys after death or while they were alive. The work of Dr. Callender and MOTEP, which was created in the late 80s and 90s, totally changed that paradigm. So now, as far as ethnic groups go, we donate way beyond our population. Ethnic group wise, we are number one compared to Hispanics, white Americans, Native Americans. So we're doing a really good job of donating after death. Where we need to do a better job is donating while we're still alive, because that's where the gap remains. So Ms. Alston is absolutely correct. This gentleman could still donate to his son, even though there's an age difference, and even though they are not compatible. Dr. Callender knows very well that I've spent my career dealing with non-compatible transplants. That means people that have different blood types, or they've been told they're not compatible. So there are always things you could do. The last thing I'm going to say, when I came to Washington, D.C., the first live donor transplant I ever did was this young lady donated to a child. And it sticks out in my memory because the family did an appeal in a church. And it was that appeal in the church that got this donor to come forward. What struck me as being a little different was, Dr. Curry, Reverend Curry understands this. The most segregated hour in America is the hour we go to church. And I remember that this Black Baptist church, this white lady came forward to donate to this child because she was a member of that church. So what Ms. Alston said is absolutely correct. When you need someone in your family needs a kidney, you need to go to every organization. You go to the church, go to everywhere that you frequent, all your friends, relatives, whomever, because you never know who's going to be that donor.
Well, thank you, Dr. Melancon, and I know we have Ms. Howard that is back, and so we'd just like to hear a word from you, and then follow up with some of these questions, or maybe steps of how one gets on the list, and how this young man that is written in, Mr. Johnson, can really find a kidney for his son. Ms. Howard? Okay. Well, since we can't hear Ms. Howard, uh, Dr. Callender, why don't you jump in and start to tell us a little bit about how one would get on a kidney list and get a kidney. Mr. Johnson
Yes,
says his son only has 6% kidney function.
6%.
Yeah, I think that's what he said in
Yeah, and of course he
the
he
chat.
then of course has to be on dialysis or have a transplant. And the
Yeah.
first thing you have to do then is to let the people in dialysis know that you want to talk to the transplant team, so that you want to be evaluated, so that you can be placed on the waiting list. Because there are certain criteria that they will go through and certain steps that they will go through to find out if you are capable of being a transplant recipient. And I would say to you that age is not a contraindication to being a recipient. Uh, Having comorbid factors is whether your heart is bad or you have some other disease that will make you unable to be a recipient, which means that you probably have a condition that would kill you. But if you don't have a condition that will kill you within a year or two, then they will evaluate you thoroughly and find out if you are able to withstand the surgery. And if you can withstand the surgery, uh, they will consider you for transplantation. After they have taken you through all the tests to identify that your heart is okay uh, and that you can withstand the surgery, that you don't have an active infection, you don't have cancer, active cancer, uh, then they will decide, they'll meet with the transplant team, which will evaluate everything about you, socially as well as other factors, whether you're underweight, overweight, or correct weight. And they will then decide yay or nay whether you're eligible for the transplant. After you, after they've evaluated you, you will then receive information from them indicating that you are now on the transplant waiting list, and you can be on the. You'll be notified officially because your waiting time depends upon when you started dialysis, not anything else other than when you started dialysis. That will help to make a decision as to when your waiting time starts. I'm very interested, however, in hearing a lot more about the life of Anthony. So,
Yes.
if you could tell us a little bit more about what kind of person was Anthony? Somebody said he was a giver. What does that mean? Give us examples of what made Anthony so special.
Okay. Anthony was he was like a very loving person. he loved his family and he loved for us to get together. And so he, if I may use a better term, he was the life of the party. And so he was the one that always wanted to bring us together in love. And his giving was, he was always willing to give of himself. And even though he was going through some things with himself, within himself, with depression, he still, you know how like people that go through depression, they always they're always happy go lucky, and they're always willing to make other people happy when they're going through on their own. And so he was just one of those very special people. Even when he was born, it was like, you know, they didn't think he was going to make it. He was in a car accident 4 years before he died. And if you saw the car, it was like he walked away from that, although he broke his femur and he was laid up for a while, but he endured. He was one of those people that endured the situations in his life with so much joy. He was not a sad person, even though he was going through some things himself. And that's why it was so sad for all of us when he went into cardiac arrest and this happened. But we thank God for the life that he lived, and he loved the Lord. You know, he did, he was like a rapper. He was, you know, a rapper in his own right, did music and wrote music, but he always included the Lord in his music. And so he was just a very special young man for us to have lost him at such a young age.
Could you tell us,
Yeah.
as you think back about, uh, you made a decision, you and your family made a decision. How about now and shortly thereafter? Did you ever regret making that decision?
I don't think my sister ever regretted it. She did all of the Pam, are you on? Can you talk?
Yes, can you hear
There
me?
she is. Thank you, Lord.
Yes. I
Okay. They
let
want
me
to hear
tell y'all,
about
the devil
Anthony.
is a liar. Cause
Yes, he is.
I
I
know
help
that's
you now,
right.
baby sister. They want to hear
I
about
was like, I
Anthony.
done threw one computer on the bed. I was just trying.
Pam,
Uh,
he wants to know, his question is, have you ever regretted your decision to give Anthony's
I'm just
organs?
honored to
That's
be
the
here
question
today,
where we
y'all.
are
But
now.
where are we at?
The question is, do you regret having given Anthony's organs?
What's the question?
Do you regret having given Anthony's organs?
Oh no, no.
Okay.
It's actually has been one of the best decisions that I've ever made in my life. It has. It
Why?
has been
Why?
just to
Why do you think that?
because of the stigma that I always thought true. And it's a lie. It was a lie. And just to be able to feel as though because of Anthony, someone basically so with that, I had to bury him, and that was just the end to our story. So we think. And I just feel that in his death, he was more of a blessing than he could ever have imagined.
Why do you say that?
Yeah. Can I add on to that after I'm finished?
Why do you say that?
Because to know Anthony, well, great. He wanted to be great, and he wanted to do great. He wanted to help. He always was a helper. He would do anything for anybody. And he's great. He's great. There's a man today that's able to walk his daughter down the aisle because of Anthony. That's
That
major to me.
that's amazing. That's amazing. Uh, Catherine or Cheryl, would you like to add anything with regard to Anthony being such a helper? In fact, having a gift of helps, if you will.
Oh, definitely. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think both of my aunts said very well that Anthony was a giver and life giver and lover, and he was someone that you could not be sad around. He would not have it. He's someone that would drop by just for an hour just to, swing through and say hello and then go on about his day. Um, he was someone who did everything that he could to help the people that he loved. Um, if it was the last shirt on his back, giving them a place to stay, welcoming them into our family. And I think Anthony was a reflection of our family. Our family is very inviting and loving, and he was just someone that would really do anything for the people that he loved, and he made sure that we knew that he loved us. I think that something that I often say when I think about him is that he loved us so well that his love for us outlasted his time here. And I think that it was true alignment that his final act was being able to give life to other people. Um, our family has been lucky enough to meet the man who received Anthony's heart. And I think for all of us, that was a very tough first meeting. Um, but meeting him was also very soothing because he seems similar to Anthony in the respect of just being jovial and caring and someone that's just a really good person. So I think that for us, that brought us a lot of peace to see that his heart went to someone like that.
As you made that decision, how and you said the devil is a liar. Why did you say that, Pam? You said that. Why did you say that?
Yeah, I would love to hear that too. Pam, you're on mute.
Oh,
Did you hear the question? Why did you say the devil is a
okay.
liar?
Okay. What was the question? I'm sorry.
Why did you say the devil is a liar?
Oh, I said that because I was struggling with trying to get on. And yesterday, when I did the test, because I was trying to get on, can you get on? And I was trying to get on either one of my computers.
Yeah, that's okay.
Frustrated with it. So at one
Yeah.
point, I said, Jennifer, it's just not working. They can't hear me. And I can't get. Oh, I went back on again. And that's when I tried with the earphones, the headphones, and you could hear the devil because at one moment I was about to just say I can't do it.
I understand.
And I wasn't going to get back on, but I said, let me try it again. So here I am.
So Cheryl, it seems that faith is a very important part of not only the family's decision to deal with matters of transplant, but to also work with the Washington Regional Transplant Center and others. So can you tell me about how it is that your faith plays a role in this whole act of giving and of loving that was demonstrated through Anthony's life and his gift of his own body?
Well, because God is love. And so with God being love, it allows us to use our faith, knowing that he loved us when we were just mere sinners. I mean, we still are, but we were like in the monkey maw. I mean, to the point where we didn't know even who we were without knowing who he is. And that's how we were raised. And so for us to know that, like I said, a lot of times when you're raised in certain atmospheres, like, my dad, I alluded to my dad saying, I'm not giving my organs, I need them. Well, what do you need them for? So it's learned behavior that sometimes we take that and that's what we live with. And so as a result, with us saying no, this is our chance to let Anthony's life continue to live. And so we trusted the Lord that that's what it would do. And as a result, now we're going out trying to, because like I said, a lot of my family they're not on dialysis, but they're on insulin. And my mom passed when she was like 64 years old from complications from diabetes. I've done a class I'm pre-diabetic, but I've done a class under CDC about how to handle being pre-diabetic, because what we don't do is we don't educate ourselves. And when you educate yourself, it helps you to be able to live, to know what to do, and to help others, tell others what they need to do to help them live without going through dialysis, without getting on metformin. And so it's our faith just plays a part, because that's how we were raised. We raised in the church with our faith and loving the Lord, loving each other.
Well, I just love it. I think it's an awesome piece, and I'm not so sure that if you have to worry about the resurrected body later, that we would need any of the stuff we have
Right.
in these current bodies. So why not let the gift keep on giving?
All given. That's
So I think this is an encouragement to all of those that are considering transplant or considering what to do with regard to options of loved ones, or even like I did on filling out my driver's license and indicating that I'm willing to be a donor, or my wife has. So I do encourage. What would you say to the person in the audience about really being willing to be a donor?
I would say, let your legacy live on, because it has purpose. And as we go out to different events for Washington Regional, a lot of people, there's a stigma behind it. And this is one of the ones we've heard about. If you in an accident, they let you die because they want your organs. Well, that's not true, because once you die, they can't use your organs. So you're more apt to be able to live by actually saying that you will be a donor, because they want you have to be alive in order for them to take your organs. So I would just encourage, especially people of color, to know that as many people that are on dialysis and are going to have all that time sitting in a chair with their blood being, I call, recycled. If you think about it, you would be helping someone. And as Dr. Martin Luther King said, if you can help somebody along the way, then your living will not be in vain.
All I can say is amen. That preached, and it will preach.
God bless your heart.
Thank you.
Praise
Thank you
God.
so much. So, Dr. Melancon, Dr. Callender, tell us about living donation, and then also tell us about whether or not can any of the organs that we have in our bodies be used after someone passes on? If someone were to pass in a car wreck, can those organs be used?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, no, great question, Dr. Curry. And, Ms. Alston is so correct. One of the main myths out there is you are in an accident, something happens, you come to the hospital, and the doctors are going to let you die in order to take your organs to give to someone else. And she's right. It's actually the opposite, right? We go above and beyond sometimes in situations that may seem hopeless to save the life of the patient, with the thought that even if the patient doesn't make it, that if the family is willing, the person can be a donor. So in these trauma centers, they will use heroic measures on patients that maybe in the past they would have let just go because it was futile. And now, not only because keeping someone alive, even if they may not make it, gives the family a chance to see the person before they move on to the next dimension. it also gives the family the opportunity to say yay or nay to their loved one being a donor. If the person is reasonably healthy, there are lots of organs that can be donated. In my field, which is solid organ transplantation, you're talking about the heart, the lungs. Each lung can be transplanted. The pancreas can be transplanted. Each kidney can be transplanted. The liver, sometimes the liver can even be divided, and one part can go to one person and the other part to another. Even the intestines can be donated, and that's solid organ transplantation. There are other tissues that can be donated as well. Heart valves, if the heart isn't good enough to be donated, if for some reason the person had heart problems, sometimes the valves can be donated, and the corneas from the eye can be donated to keep people to having vision, even the bones and ligaments. So there are so many lives that can be saved just with one single donor. And earlier I alluded to the fact that this is what Dr. Callender spent his career doing, and I actually was an author on a recent paper with him where we talked about going from last to first, right? We can't let this escape us that African Americans in this country have totally transformed the way they think about organ donation, and it's primarily because of what Ms. Alston alluded to earlier. You combat the myths with facts. So the more that people are educated about this, the more that they realize, hey, I'm benefiting my own community when I donate, because my own community suffers from the disparate way that healthcare is doled out in this country. So we suffer more from all of the chronic diseases, be it diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, therefore stroke, heart attacks, kidney disease, liver disease. So we need to be at the forefront. We need to be at the vanguard of making a change. And, Reverend, the church has been a huge part of that education. I'm not going to steal Dr. Callender's thunder, but I want to speak to this. When he created his organization, he created it. Ms. Alston quoted Dr. Martin Luther King. That's what Dr. Callender did. He took the grassroots struggle of, what the civil rights movement was all about, was starting where the problem is. They didn't start in the academic classrooms. They went at the churches in the South where the people couldn't vote to get them to vote, right? That's what made sense. So when Dr. Callender started his organization, he said, well, let's go where the problem is, right? Now, I don't want to steal his thunder, but that's what we need to do with live donation as well. We got to go where the problem is. So they're sprinkling all those dialysis centers in our community. That's where we need to go to educate people. As you know, Reverend Curry, we've gone to your area a lot because that's where the problem is. So, but anyway, I want to hear Dr. Callender talk about this because he's the godfather of this. He started it.
Well, you really haven't left much for me to say because you said it all. Because basically, grassroots is where it begins, right in the culture. One of the things that we've learned is that community education and empowerment is what it's all about. And the community is the greatest change agent that I know of. And of course, as you said, we started it in the church. One of the things that always makes me think is that you remember that Christ died and gave his life so that we might have eternal life. And it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we're pardoned. It's in dying that we're born to eternal life. And our organs, as you've already said, can't do anything for anybody else if they go into the ground because they just disintegrate. Whereas if you do what you folks did, you give somebody else a second chance at life. And as you've described, Dr. Melanson, there's so many people who can be helped with tissue or organ donations. And so I think that what the lesson that your family has taught us and continues to teach us is that it is in giving that we receive. And so, especially the gift of giving after your body is no longer useful for you, but can be used for others. This is, in fact, one of the greatest gifts of all.
This is just tremendous, and I am just so blessed by what has gone on, just the sharing and the transparency. I would ask Cheryl or Katherine if any of your other family members have been inspired to give in such a way or to go on donor lists.
Yeah, I think a good number of us have, on our driver's licenses elected to become a donor. And I even had some friends, Pam didn't get to speak too much to it, but after Anthony passed away, she started a foundation to bring awareness to mental health and substance abuse. And through that organization, there's an annual like Legacy of Love weekend that they host every year on the anniversary of Anthony's passing. And so over the years, I've brought like a couple of friends to the walk, and friends have been inspired to also sign up to do that. I also have some friends who have personally dealt with that within their own families, of someone needing an organ donation and not being able to receive it. And in that happening, that also inspired them to sign up to give.
All right.
Yes, in fact, I was not an organ donor either. I told you what my father said. I guess I thought I was taking mine with me too, for what reason? But I think that even working with WRTC is just helping me understand the importance of us leaving that legacy for, in our community, because there's so much sickness, and we need to be educated on how important it is for us to give our organs. And even um, the guy that has Anthony's heart, when we first met him, um, he told us one day, he said he would get up in the morning and he was like, okay, come on, Anthony, let's start again. Let's start a new day. And so that just makes you feel good that, that Anthony is still living through this man who, in fact, his family, we were supposed to go down to Virginia to meet up with them. And then, of course, after we had met them initially, and then COVID set in, and of course, but he's doing miraculously. I mean, he's doing so well. And so they always reach out to us, of course, on Anthony's anniversary and the anniversary when he actually received Anthony's heart. So when we started the foundation, is something that we do every year, as Katherine alluded to, is to do something to have that Legacy of Love weekend to honor and remember Anthony.
Have you done any writing with regard to that? Or I know you do the gathering, but is there any place we can find more about this story that you've maybe written in a book or in poetry or some other
Well,
form?
actually, Pam is actually working on that because Anthony left some writing. And so she's working to kind of finalize some of the things he said. But we do have a website. It's called Asika Heals Foundation .org. And that's part of his story is on there telling about him as well. But Pam is working on his story. I mean, it will be actually 5 years. Is that right, Katherine? It will be 5 years, September the 10th. He died in 1990. No, 4 years. And
4 years.
4 years, yes, September 10th, 2018. And so we are blessed. I mean, it felt tragic, but, out of tragedy comes things that God intends for us to make purpose. Purpose is in everything that goes on in our life. And it may not always feel good, but God is always in the midst.
Without question, you talk about that purpose, and God always allows that purpose, but God also provided in Anthony and made him provision so that others might be blessed, and then they can live with purpose in life. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Not to mention that this is really all about the promise that God offers everyone, as Dr. Callender readily started preaching and sharing. I would say this to each and every one of you. Look, we have folk from, I see Sudan, South Sudan here. We have folk from Texas and Atlanta and all sorts of places all over. So know that your story is really being shared and shared broadly and widely throughout the length and the breadth of this country and literally this world. So you are witnesses of an amazing legacy of love that could have only happened with the power of Jesus Christ. If you had to share with our listeners one thing that they should take away from your experience, Cheryl or Katherine, if you would, please share that one thing. And then
I'll go.
Dr. Melancon and Callender, after they close, let's figure out how you close out and wrap up in your own unique ways.
I'll go. That way Cheryl could finish. I think the one thing that I would say is when you're faced with losing a loved one and they are able to donate organs, to consider doing it. I was there when the donation team approached my aunt Pam, and I didn't know what she was going to say, but my initial thought was, I hope she says yes. Um, and to be honest, organ donation was really not something that I thought too much about before this happened. But my initial thought was, I hope she says yes, because that is exactly what Anthony would have wanted. He was a giver. He loved giving. He loved just being the life of the party. I mean, there was not too many parties that Anthony did not like. He was not in the center of, or that he didn't start. You know, you could walk into a room and it's quiet, and 5 minutes later we're laughing and playing music and all those things. And I know that he would have been so happy with the decision to allow other people the chance to continue living. So I say to consider it. It's a very hard decision to make. It is a very difficult decision to make, but it's worth it. And I think that you'll find peace with making that decision.
And I would just say that, like as Anthony wasn't an organ donor, if you really want your family's a legacy to live on, I would say there wouldn't be a better way than to give their organs if they're not a donor, or even if you would just consider living as a living donor, if you want to do something to help mankind, because so many times we want, we don't want it for any self glory, but we wanted to be able to help to glorify God in our lives, because that's what he did when he gave his son for us. He gave that we might have a chance to this life. And so actually it's not even ours. And so if you have a chance, your family would make a big difference in our community and in this world, to give their organs. And thank you all so much for having us. It has been a pleasure.
Dr. Melancon, Dr. Callender.
Yeah, I would say that I would like all of the people who are listening to this office consider registering to be an organ and tissue donor, because once you've done that and you got on the computer, your family doesn't have to think about making the decision, because your decision is already made. So you need to share that decision by registering when you sign up to get your driver's license, or whenever you can just uh, become a registered donor. And that way your family will know that when the time comes for us to go away, and we all are going, that this is what you want them to do, to grant your wish to become an organ or tissue donor, uh, in life or after you die.
Yeah, I would just echo what Dr. Callender said, because I'm reading a book right now. It's called 12 Ordinary Men. And it's about Jesus' disciples and how unaccomplished they were, how uneducated, how the fact that they didn't come from the religious center of the Jewish empire. They were just simple fishermen, uneducated, didn't speak Greek, uh, yet they transformed the world. And I think that's the way to think about organ donation. Just normal everyday people are doing something that will transform someone's life. In East Africa, the concept is the Sashi and the Zamani. The Sashi are people that have recently died. They've gone over to the other side, but they're still with us because their memories are still with us. And I think Dr. Callender can tell you there's so many stories I have of doing organ donation, organ transplantation, and the qualities of the donor go over to the recipient. A very famous example I have of I did a deceased donation from a Hispanic gentleman, and into a person who never liked spicy food, never ever liked spicy food in his entire life. And when I did his transplant, he was in his 60s. And after the transplant, he wanted to know where his kidney came from because he started to love spicy food. And that's the way to think about Anthony. When you listen to the heartbeat in that gentleman that got his heart lives on. Anthony lives on, and everyone that receives a transplant from him. And that's the way we need to think about organ donation and organ transplantation, is that we're very ordinary people, but we can absolutely do extraordinary things by transforming someone's life. Because every single person that receives one of those organs, their lives are saved. They will live longer. They will go to weddings that they would not have attended. They will see graduations that they would not have been able to see, on and on and on. So ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. Dr. Joseph Keith Melancon and Clive Callender have preached, and in my tradition, we would take an offering afterwards. So I am so grateful that we've had opportunity to have a legacy of love. This has been so wonderful with the Howard family, and you see on your screen there, asicaheals.org is a place you can go and learn more about Anthony Howard and this wonderful family that he has, that is a sterling example of why we should give and how we should give and how this legacy of love will begin to move forward. I just want to thank you for joining in with us, and for those of you that will continue to share this particular episode all throughout your Facebook pages and moving, and just watch it on blackdoctors.org, because this is amazing. This touches hearts and it touches lives. I just want to say thank you so very much for this time. And thank you for allowing us to come together and be with you all in your homes during this time. So
Say
may
again?
you be blessed, may you be covered, and I just look forward to the next installment of Kidney Talks with the Ron and Joy Paul Kidney Center at the George Washington University. I'm your host, Kendrick Curry, pastor of the Pennsylvania Avenue Baptist Church, along with my co-host, Dr. Clive Callender of the Minority Organ Tissue Transplant Education Program, and Dr. Joseph Keith Melancon, transplant surgeon at the Ron and Joy Paul Kidney Center. We wish you the best, and we say God bless. Take care, and bye-bye for now.